I'm Tom Bassett, and thanks for joining me on this virtual rerun of the life of a Salesforce designer. During my presentation, I may make some forward-looking statements. Be sure to make any purchasing decisions based on products or features that are generally available. My name is Tom Bassett, and I'm a solution architect based in the UK. I am an answers leader and proudly have over 14,000 answers to my name, as well as being an expert author for SalesforceBen and a co-leader of the London Architect Community Group. Thank you so much for tuning in for this virtual recap. It means a lot to be able to share this with you and be able to spread the message of the value of Salesforce designers to a wider audience. Let's talk about why design matters. Firstly, companies see an 85% increase in ROI from design thinking. Approximately 70% of companies say that design is reshaping their products. Right now, around 30% of Salesforce job descriptions mention design. I expect this to only grow within the next few years. Let's talk about the fact that we are all designers, whether we are actively influencing or physically building a system. We all design and we have a role to play to influence the design of a system. Let's start by thinking as a Salesforce admin. You want to design a system you can love as much as your users do. A marketer might want to design a solution that is intuitive and increases engagement. A consultant or a business analyst would be driven to design a system that is successful and meets the business's requirements. An architect or developer would be dealing or developing solutions that are designed to be accessible to all. And lastly, a user experience designer should be embodying human-centered design in everything they do. Let's talk about a typical project team. This could be made up of people in different roles, including admins, consultants, developers, architects, and designers. The message here is that if you do not have a full-time designer that's part of your project team, you shouldn't forget about these responsibilities. It's important that somebody else within the project team plays the role of a designer, or that these responsibilities are shared via multiple members of the project team so that it's simply not overlooked or forgotten, because without a successful design, your user adoption is inevitably going to be impacted. Human-centered design is the key to high user adoption. I embody human-centered design by thinking about people's emotional needs as well as their functional needs. I actively listen to users and customers in everything I do to ensure that I am meeting all of their different types of needs, and I'm designing with the human element at heart. Let's talk about personas and understand some common personas and their motivations. A service manager persona would want to ensure the best support experience for their customers, whereas a partner user would probably be more interested in an easy way to manage their deals and submit their leads. A marketing manager would be more driven to make engaging journeys that improve retention. Now let's move on to jobs to be done. Jobs to be done are what a user, customer, or partner wants to achieve. You should obtain these jobs to be done by actively listening to users and customers via interviews, shadowing, and surveys. We have emotional, social, and functional needs. Be sure to address all of these as part of your jobs to be done. Ask open-ended questions so you are able to dig into the motivations behind what users do and why they do it in a certain way. This is difficult for me as a solution architect, but at this point in the design journey, you should be thinking in a solution agnostic way. It doesn't help to start thinking about solutions at this point, because ultimately this could steer your jobs to be done in a certain direction based on whatever solution you're thinking about, rather than what your users, customers actually need. Let's talk about user stories, because it all starts with a great story. This describes a feature from a user's point of view. You need to assemble the right team when defining user stories, which may consist of a product manager, developers, admins, and super users. A user story should follow the INVEST framework, which means it's independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. A user story usually follows this framework as a I want so that. Within your user story, you should provide clear acceptance criteria so that when it comes around to testing, you can easily ensure that the requirements have been met. This is why acceptance criteria is usually provided as a pass-fail type outcome. Now let's talk about prototyping. During the design process, there are different types of prototypes that will come into play. The first one is a low fidelity prototype, which is a sketch. It's typically hand drawn on paper and it's used in the earlier stages of design. A mid fidelity prototype is produced using a dedicated tool, and it contains images as well as words. A high fidelity prototype is usually produced towards the end of the prototyping journey or process, and is an interactive mock-up close to how the final product will look or feel. Whatever you're designing, you need to ensure that you are making it accessible. Think about navigation and users that navigate via mice, keyboards, touchscreen, voice. They should all be able to get around the system and ultimately get whatever it is they need to get done. Structure. It's important to use a logical structure. Break up pages that have lots of content with visual sections. Pop your content onto cards like I've done on this slide. And use clear landmarks so those using a screen reader can understand the structure of the page. Standards. There are certain standards in place, including the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which ensure colors have the right contrast. You are not using graphics that flash too often, and your images have alternative text, so those using a screen reader can understand what the image is being used to represent. Lastly, we're going to talk about color. You should use color as an indicator. Red usually means something is overdue, whereas green usually means something is complete. You should supplement this with colored icons, for example, a tick or a cross. That way, you do not exclude those that might not be able to perceive color. Now let's move on to how Salesforce can help. The Salesforce Lightning design system has accessibility built in. Be sure you are using this framework when producing any custom components, and that you are considering the accessibility of what you are building. Salesforce has built-in tools and features to help, and we will cover a few of these in the next few slides. The platform encourages feedback, so you should do the same with your users. That way you can design in an iterative process. The platform provides assistance, so be sure to use features that can help guide your users through a particular process. The platform is agile, which means it can develop and evolve as you do and your business needs change. Now I'm going to embrace my inner Ruth, and we are going to match jobs to be done to Salesforce features. Let's start by thinking about a sales manager. They ultimately want to guide their sales reps through the sales process. Within Salesforce, you could use a path to structure the process from a deal being created to a deal being closed won. You could use validation rules to guide users to enter information that is valid. You could use dynamic forms to break up large bodies of fields over multiple tabs and only show fields when it's absolutely necessary to do so. But also structure information collection using flow to guide users through a complicated process that perhaps they could pause and come back to at a later point. Now let's think about a service manager who wants to empower customers to self-serve. You could use Salesforce Knowledge to help achieve this goal by encouraging agents to insert knowledge articles into outgoing emails and therefore coach or guide the customer on what to do should they face the same problem or issue again. You could build on this further by developing an Einstein bot that could serve up these knowledge articles to customers without the need for an agent or a human being to actually even become involved. You could use Experience Cloud to deliver an online knowledge base so customers can search and get the answers they need independently. Additionally, you could package this Experience Cloud using Mobile Publisher that would allow you to offer the solution to customers on the App Store or the Google Play Store. So in summary, you should be designing for humans with a human element at heart. You should be designing a system that is accessible so that you are meeting the needs of everybody and aren't excluding anybody. And the Salesforce platform can aid design. Use the built-in tools and features to help achieve a system that is great via its design. If you want to go on to demonstrate your own dream designer, then there are different ways and resources you can use to help this. You could go on to become certified as a user experience designer. You could check out the tools on Trailhead, including the Trailmix, which can be accessed via this bit.ly link. Alternatively, or in addition to, you could go on to become a strategy designer and demonstrate your abilities with this certification. Just because this is the end of the virtual presentation doesn't mean it has to be the end of our conversation. Feel free to add comments, reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or the Trailhead community to continue the conversation about how the life of a Salesforce designer can be embedded within your organization or your way of thinking to ultimately deliver systems that are great via their design. Thanks so much for tuning in to this virtual recap.